No one saw it coming. Not the fans, not the crew, not even those who had worked beside them for years. What began as quiet glances on set had once bloomed into something too sincere to hide. And then, without warning, it all unraveled. Behind closed doors, where cameras couldn't follow, something had shifted. For months, Wang and Shen had been the story everyone wanted to believe in. They had chemistry that felt effortless, laughter that seemed unscripted, and a warmth that reminded people that fame didn't always have to harden hearts. But what people didn't know was that beneath every shared smile were long nights, unanswered calls, and words swallowed to keep the peace. Fame had a price, and theirs was privacy. Every move, every glance, every rumor became magnified until their relationship was no longer their own. The very connection that brought them together was slowly tearing them apart. Those close to them said the first cracks appeared during a long shoot abroad. Schedules clashed, messages went unseen, and time, the quiet thief of intimacy, started stealing the hours they once guarded for each other. He would stay behind on set, replaying scenes long after the crew left, while she sat in a hotel room across town, staring at a phone that never rang. Still, in public they looked unshaken. At fan events, their eyes found each other, and for a moment it seemed that the whispers were wrong. But when the lights dimmed and the crowd dispersed, silence filled the spaces where laughter used to live. Behind closed doors, their conversations became shorter, his words sharper, her patience thinner. What used to be affection turned into avoidance. Two people trying to protect what was already slipping away. He blamed the pressure. She blamed the distance. Both were right. In an industry that rewards control, emotions are treated like weaknesses. Dylan learned to wear his composure like armor. Shen learned to smile, even when her chest felt hollow. Together, they perfected the illusion. Two stars orbiting each other, close enough to burn, but never close enough to touch. The breaking point came one night after an awards ceremony. He had just won a major accolade, the room full of champagne and applause. She arrived quietly, unnoticed by most. They spoke briefly near the exit. Witnesses said their exchange lasted less than a minute, but the look on her face said everything. She turned first. He didn't follow. The next day, her manager confirmed a new project overseas. A creative break, they called it. But those who knew better understood. Sometimes, distance is the only way to survive what love leaves behind. Behind closed doors, he watched her plane take off from his phone screen. He replayed that minute outside the ceremony again and again, trying to remember the exact moment she gave up. Was it the night he canceled their dinner? The interview where he smiled through a lie? Or the message he never sent? The one that might have changed everything? He began writing again. Not scripts, not statements. Letters. Letters she would never read. Each one starting the same way. If I could start over. Meanwhile, Shen found peace in silence. In the soft routine of early mornings, in learning to cook again, in reclaiming small pieces of herself that fame had taken. Her friends said she laughed more easily now, but even they noticed the way her eyes drifted whenever his name appeared on a screen. Time moved, but memories didn't. Every time a commercial played with his face, every time an old interview resurfaced, the wound reopened. But she no longer bled for him. She simply remembered, and remembering, she realized, is its own kind of healing. Months passed before the world began to speculate again. Rumors of a reunion, whispers of unfinished business. Neither confirmed, neither denied. They simply existed in separate worlds now, parallel lines that once touched, now destined never to meet again. Yet behind closed doors, something lingered. An unread message sat in her inbox, sent late one night with no name attached. It contained only one sentence. I finally understand what you meant about silence. She didn't reply. There was nothing left to say. Sometimes closure isn't a conversation, it's acceptance. The world, of course, kept watching. Every red carpet glance, every accidental encounter became a headline. Fans begged for clarity, for proof, for reconciliation. But what no one realized was that the story had already ended, long before the public began to piece it together. Behind the glamour, behind the curated smiles, were two people who had loved too much and spoken too little. He carried guilt. She carried grace. And both carried the memory of something too fragile for the world they lived in. In private moments, Dylan still mentioned her name softly, as if saying it too loud might break him. He told a friend once, "She saw me before the world did." And maybe that's what hurt the most, losing the one person who knew him when he was still real. Shen, on the other hand, no longer spoke of him. But sometimes when the cameras stopped rolling and the room went quiet, she'd pause, just long enough for her thoughts to catch up to her heartbeat. There was a time she would have waited for him. Now, she only wished him well. That's the thing about love behind closed doors. It doesn't disappear. It transforms into lessons, into memories, into small invisible threads that still tug when the wind changes. If you ask them today, they both say they've moved on. And maybe they have. But those who once watched their story unfold can still feel the echo, that faint ache in every gaze, every silence, every almost smile that crosses their faces when the other's name is mentioned. Because what really happened between Dylan Wang and Shen Yu wasn't a scandal. It wasn't betrayal. It was something quieter, more human. It was two people who loved deeply, but not at the same time. One held on while the other drifted. And by the time they met again in the middle, there was nothing left to hold. Love didn't fail them. Timing did. And so, the story the world thought it knew, the one of heartbreak and drama, was really just a lesson about what happens when two souls meant for each other meet in the wrong season. Behind closed doors, they said their real goodbyes. Not with words, but with the silence of understanding. And sometimes, that's the most honest ending of all. Would you like me to continue next with He Chose the Spotlight? Love cannot be scheduled between fame and deadlines. She learned that love without consistency is just a performance. In the end, they both got what they asked for. He wanted peace. She wanted freedom. And maybe, somewhere in the quiet spaces of their new lives, they still think of each other. Not with pain, but with a kind of soft sadness that comes from knowing how close they once were to forever. People still talk about that apology. It remains one of the most replayed clips of his career, not because of what he said, but because of what it revealed. That even stars, adored by millions, can break like anyone else. And that the real heartbreak isn't in losing someone. It's in realizing they were already gone before you noticed. Shen Yu never replied again. Her silence was her boundary, her peace, her final word. And sometimes, silence is the loudest answer of all. End.